Good morning, Kumlana Blat Gemara. Today's Daf Chaf, and up to the Mishnah, the very last blot of the first Perek of Bava Metzia before we move on to Ela Metzias. But you can see already segue because yesterday, we learned in the last couple of days about Simonim, the idea of returning an object to somebody, and so that's what we learned in the last few days about if you find a loan contract in the street, who you give it back to, and so on. The Mishnah. Matzah, you found Igrois Shum. You found letters of assessment, which is the way Rashi describes it is very similar to the letters we learned before started Chalta Osa. In fact, the Rishonim try to work out what the difference is. But basically, it's a document that Bezdin gives you to have a right to seize property because the guy definitely owes you money. Or Igreis Muslim, a document that your wife brought in a daughter, your stepdaughter, and you promise her that you are going to feed her, provide for this girl as well. Shtare Chalitza, document of Chalitza. The brother-in-law is not going to marry you, but gives you Chalitza. Umiyunin, if the mother or the sibling marry her off, she's only married her Rabbanan, and she can just walk away. And the Bezdin then writes a document saying that she doesn't need to get it. Just say, she has to say in front of the Bezdin, I'm not interested. I can't live with this guy anymore. And the Bezdin writes a star mean for her. That she can marry anybody she wants. Ushtari Berudin, the Gemara will explain an argument what a document of clarification is. Anyway, you found any of these documents on the ground, in fact, any activity from a Bezin Hareza Yachza, you return it back to that person. We're not worried that the Bezin wrote it and changed their mind because Bezin doesn't write things unless it already happened. Motza Bechafisa Badluskma, you found them in the different kinds of vessels. We'll see later what it is, like a thing made out of a leather pouch or something. Tachrich Shostar is a bundle of documents, or Aguda studies, or a group of documents. Hareza Yachse, we want to explain the difference between Tachrich and Aguda. And all of them, you return them if the person has a simon, that this is his. Because you have a simon on the thing that it's in, or the way the documents were set up. The Kam Aguda was a bundle, Shleisha shooting them that three tied together. Shimon ben Gamliel says, let's say one person borrowed from three different lenders, and then you found them on the street, three documents of three different lenders. Now, the chances are, who did it fall from? If it fell from the lenders, that means you still owe the money. Then how is it possible that three different lenders should all be standing next to each other, all dropped it? Exactly. It makes more sense that the borrower had all these three documents and dropped it from his hand. Otherwise, he already paid them back. Why would the borrower have them? He paid them. Is the labor? We'll assume it was paid. What about the other way around? Three different borrowers are borrowed for one person, and they find three documents together. The chances are they came from the lender because the borrower all three be together. And they stole the money. Much as you found a document among your studies, you don't know mativa, you don't know whether it was. You found a document there that one person owes another person. You don't know whether the borrower still owes the money, and he asked you to hold it for him, whether the lender paid it back and somehow he gave it to you. You can't recollect what happened with the document. Don't give back to anybody. If there's a simpan is going to be talking about a receipt. The word simpan itself, Rashi tells us later on, means to break. We had simpan regarding a mum. If you buy an evidence, simpan turn to be has mumin, or you marry a woman that's simpan. Simpan does not mean a flaw. Simpan means it breaks it. It breaks whatever you did. And Yasa Mashi trying to follow the words of the Sekainim. The receipt that means he paid it.
Issue if he wasn't.
Issue. We'll see more later about issue. First of all, here they interpret it as starting ta'anosa, that these are you collect the staff the and write all the arguments of the Malva and the Leva and so on, put them records it. That's called shtar berunim. And Abiyam is that this is when you choose a dayanim in a court case. You choose your zabla, and the person they choose their own zabla. And once you write it down, you can no longer change your mind once you document, and that's what you found. You have any mice you give it back. You give it back. Why? There was a get which we had just a few days ago. They found it in the courthouse of Rabhuna. Now the courthouse of Rabhuna is a place that shiyadas would see. People come from far and wide to resolve their disputes. Now the Kosebe B'Shaved, it says in this document, B'Shaved in the city of Shveda, Masa B'Shaved Masa in the city of Shveda, the Al Rachis now that's sitting in the neighboring the river called Rachis. Now, the question is, Do we say that it fell, and this person said it's my get, I know it's for my wife, and do we give it back to them, or do we say that maybe it's another person, and there's another Shvei somewhere, another person living the same name? Even if you only have one chash, if there are many people, there's an influx of people from other places, we're worried l'shnei shveidim. But there are two shveidim and we don't give it back. Go look and do your research. Tonight, Rabbi Huna is going to ask you what you think. Nafik, he went, he found he searched for Ashken, and he found that none kol maase bezen harei the yachzet. The Mishnah says here, any maase bezen you give back, which means that even though there are a lot of people, and he learns that so much even in the courthouse, even inside the courthouse, there's a lot of people coming in, nevertheless give it back. We're not chosh unless you have two choshes. First of all, there's an influx of people from far and wide. Number two, you know for a fact that in your city where you're living, that two Yosef ben Shimon. So if you have two choshes, then we won't give back. But if there's only one chosh, for example, you know in the city that two Yosef ben Shimon, but there's nobody else around, and the star came from him, and he and his wife say it's theirs, we would give it back to them. You need two choshes. So the Gemara, now this is interesting. This is how the conversation used to have. You wonder why sometimes in the Shainim you find the most nastiest descriptions of each other. I mean, you have to look. There's a Ravid in the third or fourth pagan Rosh Hashanah against the Balamar. Your hair will stand on your head. Even my hair will stand on my head. It's just incredible. Yeah, if you look at it's worse than that. You can't imagine, and it's not one word. It goes on and on and on. Him and the Rabbi and his father. He knew his father. Wow, the chef. You hear us stand in your head. So you see, it starts, and we had a few places in the remember we had in the seventh painting, and he gets back to really tough. Okay, so here we have something very similar. This is what happened. So I'm asked about a question. How can you? So you will learn from our mission here, which talks about Dini Mamadus. Dini Mamadus, which is a lot more lenient, and we give it back. And you want to say about get, which is Easter to give back as well. In other words, Isa is far stronger than Mammon. Tesh already deals with the fact that when we Isa is stronger than Mammon. By Mammon, we have this is one of the most difficult subjects to understand. In fact, the Torah's brother wrote a whole sefer called Kuntas HaSveikos to try to understand, and many others for him afterwards, this rule. If why when it comes to money we say ein we paskin ein hilchim b'mammon acharei. You don't follow money when you go majority, but when it comes to killing someone, if majority of the witnesses don't know, they make a mistake in the shchedesh, one day we're going to accept that they're not contradicting each other, and we're going to kill the guy. So by dini from the froshes we go after Roi, many moments we don't. There's something similar over here. We don't go after Roi by din and Mammon, and by Isa we go after Roi all the time, even against Chazaka, Ruba Adif. So how can you ask me a question? So forget Madach Mammon, which is so strict, and yet we'll give it back, and usually you don't go after probability. And here it's so stronger than just probability. It definitely belongs back to them. You're asking me that, and by and how can you learn by married women? What's this? What's his question? So Traces other places says that the rave that we follow when we say the mum and ain't heard rave are weak raves, strong raves you would. There's no question here. Traces says that we find when it comes to a married woman, forget about other cases of other cases we do go after rave. By a married woman, Mayim she'ein lahem sof. You saw a guy drowning in the Atlantic Ocean. You cannot testify that he's dead, even though the vast majority, and this is a very strong rave, are not going to survive. But when it comes to Isha HDs, a rave is not good enough. So we see Ish is stricter than Mammon. Even though Mishimaguna, if it comes back, we're so lenient, that's other reasons to be good. Anyway, back to one question. So Rabbi said, how can you learn one to another? On Malay, he said, Tarda, you fool. This is what I said. Tarda, you fool, or Rashi has another pshat, you lazy one. Shtare chalitza miyun. In the Mishnah, also mentions other starters, not just money things. It talks about Isser, like chalitza and miyun. And then what happened was, Poka Arza de Beirav, the supporting tree that was holding up the house of this yeshiva, collapsed. Maramar, one of them said, Rabbi Amram said, you know why? Because you humiliated me. The tree got angry, and to defend my honor, because you called me a fool, it broke and fell out of the ground. I said, no, wait, forget. You asked me a question, you humiliated me in public, it was a Nadisha question, and that's why the tree fell apart. So the tree gained nothing by falling apart. So we don't know why. Other, maybe because of both. All the cheres between two people doesn't go awry. Motu Chavisa he found it in the Chavisa Luska. My Chavisa, what's Chavisa? Amar al Bakona, same mask tanda, small little thing, a small little pouch made out of leather. My deluskima, and what's deluskima? Oh my Omar Abba Shmuel, Talika de Sabi, but older people put away the utensils, so they don't have to look for it later. You know, you write down when you get a certain age, you start writing down where you put your trousers, where you put your shirt, and everything else. The problem is you can't remember where you put the paper. Yeah. The Midrash Maga had a chassid called the Volpe. The Volpe. And he was an unbelievable guy and everything else, but he liked to drink. So Chassidim used to give him to drink so that he would repeat Mamorim and Chassidus, because the only ones they say that understood the Magid when he said a Maimon was the Alter Rebbe and the Volpe. Everybody else went out of the cave. It was all that they went out of the cave. They made somersaults and and so on. So once they went to his apartment to find Ksovim, maybe he has something written down. Anyway, that night he knew he wrote what happened. He said to him, that a lot of people when they get older, they start writing down where they put the trousers and the shirt and everything else and write this paper, but they forget where they put the paper. He says the smart ones etch it into their head, and that you can never take away from them. He says, 20 years ago, he said, you got to find a piece of paper, and that we have it seared into our head, and therefore you can never separate me from my. Actually, Al Rebbe once heard that he was passing through. We were very upset why the Chassidim didn't tell him so after he left. Trying to get him back. Anyway, tachrich shel stodas, agudah shel stodas, a bundle of stodas. Talk about it. What's a tachrich and what's an agudah? Bundles and bundles. What's the difference? How much is tachrich and how much is tachrich? Is shloisha kruchim zeh b'zeh. You have 3 documents together, wrapped up together, and in fact, that's the simon. You say, I have documents, and the guy comes over and says, oh, there were 3. And 3 is the number. And also you say how it was. They're all rolled together, not 3 independent documents, they're all rolled together. The Kamihi Agudah Shtaris, so what's this, a group of Shtaris? 3 that are tied together. So that's different than another one. They're tied together. So now the Gemara later on in the second page we're going to have a whole issue. Are knots considered a simon? Because does everybody make their own kind of a knot? So if I can describe to you the kind of knot that I made that you found, that's a simon. So and here it seems clearly the only difference between Agud and Tachlit that Agud has a knot. So it must be that the simon is the knot. So the Gemara says, Shma'amina. Oh, we'll see how the roles. Shamad minay kesha siminu. So l'chaylas bring a knife me that a knot is a siman because everybody makes their own kind of knots, their own styles. I say, oh, there was tied together, and you'll come over and tell me what kind of knot it was. A sailor's knot, this knot, double knot, triple knot. There's no knife in there. Tanya Rav Chia shloisha kruchin zeh. Sorry, Stephen. How Tanya Rav Chia said that shloisha shooting zeh b'zeh. Usually, you have each star, no matter how many stars you have, they're independent of each other. You have each star separately, but here all 3 were wrapped together. Didn't we just say tachlich is when 3 are wrapped together? Tachlich kol chad v'chad b'roish l'chavre. Agudi de rame hadodi. Look at this. Agudi is you take 3 documents, put one on top of the other, and then you roll them up. And the other one is you rolled up one and you leave the top part a little bit empty, and then you start rolling the second one after that. And then you leave the top part empty, you start rolling the third one. So they're rolled together, but each one's sort of separate, together separate. And the good is when they're all rolled together, all 3, you put one on top of the other, and then you roll them together. So the Gemara, my machis. So what exactly are you pulling out? So we say the one who said I found. What he's speaking about? Minion. In other words, you say I found 3 starters, and the guy will tell you how they were lined, rolled together, not rolled together, depending on all that. If that's what it is, then my yetlos are white after 3. After 3 nami, even 2 also. If you're going to say I found the starters, and you have to come back to me and tell me that how it was, how you found them together or wrapped together, then why after 3? Then even 2, that makes no difference. You know why not two? He says, I found documents. You need to tell me how many. But if I don't, two is not acceptable because when you say documents in plural, automatically we know that it means at least two. So if people guess two, that doesn't prove in any way. It's such a shvacha siman that it's not useful. You have to come back at least a minimum of three. I guess if the guy is Talmud Chacham and he knows you're announcing it, he'll know right away. It has to be a minimum of three. But we learned that Talmud Chacham, Tzurma Rabbanan doesn't lie. They say the truth. Says the Gemara,
But if he tells you they're rolled in such and such a way, or folded on this corner, or whatever, that's a better thing.
that's also a good thing, yeah. Exactly, yeah. Said the Gemara, Shloisha Shalov Mechad Yachzal Malva, you return it to the Malva. Why? These are not the love. If you can tell me that belongs to the three borrowers, in other words, that they paid it already. My boy, how in the world do you find three different loans? How do you three? You talking about? Did I skip over? Oh, sorry. If one person borrows from three different people, we'll assume it came from the lender, which means he paid it all back because there's no way that three different lenders happen to be standing together. These are not the Malvin, belongs to the lenders. My boy, how in the world the three different lenders come together, poop at the same moment, and they drop it together and say that, well, the guy hasn't paid. Why? Maybe they were going to Bezin to get it stamped. The Mekayim. We're talking about a case. You're right. That is a possibility. So we wouldn't give back to later. Maybe we don't give back to anybody. But the Mekayim. Talking about there was already a bezin stamp. So where would they go? Maybe the Sefer wrote it, and that's where it fell from. The Gemara says. In other words, they gave it to the Sefer to get to Mekayim it. They gave it to the Safra Begin to Mekayim it, and from his hand it fell, which means that the guy still owes the money. Nobody leaves it for a minute. You go there, you wait until he stamps it and take it back. Remember, this is the only proof that the lender has that the lawyer owes the money. He's not going to give it to him and come back a week later. They'll give it to him and stand there and wait until the guy stamps it. So therefore, if you found three different lenders together, definitely came from the borrower, it means he paid them all back. But if three different people borrowed from one lender and you found all three documents together, the chance that came from the lender, which means they all owe the money. These are the loan that belongs to the borrowers. My boy got be a duddy. How in the world are three different borrowers, three strangers, suddenly happens to be standing next together? I mean, what happenstance? And then they dropped all three the starters. Maybe they were all going to the Sefer to write it and it fell from the Sefer. The Ksiva Betlasi Day Safer. We written by three different Sefer. You can tell from the handwriting, three different Sefer. So there's no way they all happen to be together here. But maybe these borrowers will walk into the Sefer to get it stamped. Malva Mekayim started, Level Mekayim started. Who goes to prove the lender? The borrower has it. Once he has a starter, he's going to rip it up and get rid of it. Then it says, if you have some point, is Yasim Mashra follow, but it says it was a receipt. That means it was paid up. Simple. If you find a receipt by the Malva, then not by the labor, where does the receipt belong? The receipt belongs in the labor's domain, right? You find it by the Malva, and even if he himself wrote, not just a Sefer, that Sefer happened to write it, because he saw a Sefer, was in a minute, and he said, "Do me a favor, you're here in town, write me a receipt, because the guy wants to pay you back. I'll have already, Sefer available." He just wrote it as if to tease the borrower for the puzzle. If it's found in the domain of the Malva, we'll say that it's not, the labor still hasn't paid because he found it by the Malva. Said the Gemara, no, you have to say if it's written in the hand of the Sefer, handwriting Sefer. You can say Safra Yisram. Like, why is it by the lender? Because he found the Sefer and there's no Sefer in town, so he got it. He wrote it down because of. Even though he wrote his own handwriting, he could have waited until he got paid back. So maybe he got paid back and the labor sort of dropped it and the Malva took it. Is puzzled. Why? So that he thinks. You know why I wrote it? What happens? A labor will use any excuse not to have to pay. What happens? Will come to me Erev Shabbos. Rashi says in a few places, whenever it says Stam Ben Hashmashas, it means Erev Shabbos. He'll come to me Erev Shabbos, they could probably pay me. And if I don't have a ready receipt, he'll say, I can't pay you. And he'll go away, and who knows when I'll get paid. If I don't give him a receipt on the spot, he won't pay me. I will write it. As soon as he brings in money, I'll be able to give it to him. So therefore, if you found the receipt by the Malva, we will say that the labor, what do you call it? It's not a receipt to the labor still owes the money. And there's a good reason why he wrote this, why he wrote a receipt, even though he never got paid yet. But we'll have a few questions. Now we learned it says in our Mishnah, if you found with it a number of simpoiners, yasim mashivim, do what it says in In other words, if there's a receipt that the labor paid, follow what it says. It means the labor did pay if he found by the malva a receipt. So the mother, no, we're going to answer that. Our mission is talking about where did he have the receipt? He has a section of all those contracts that were ripped up because they were paid off already, or they were no longer valid, and there he found a receipt. So what does that tell you? That tell you that it was paid up already. And why didn't the receipt give the labor? Maybe the labor dropped it and you put it there. But the fact is, since all the other documents, neighboring documents, means it was paid up and they were all taken care of. That means that the labor already paid. That's our Mishnah. But stammer that you found a receipt doesn't mean in any way that it was paid. The Malva just prepared it for the day that will happen. I'm just make sure Rabbi Safra answer the question later on. I'm just going to see. We'll use the same answer here. In fact, we'll use the same answer on every single question we're going to ask. Let's say there were two people in the city called Yosef and Shimon. Now, the thing is, if the two people say Yosef and Shimon and you lent money, actually amongst both, but you lent money to them, you can never collect from them. Because how do we know each one will say, it wasn't me, somebody else. So therefore we say that the Gemara there says, that is Mishaloshin, which means that you wrote the father, there's no last names in those days. It's no last names till the late 700s, even though there are a few Yiddish names that were last names that we know for 1,000 years already. Mongolia is a few names. Each had a meaning, The Katz, sorry? Sego, Levi. Anyway, so but the receipt, you forgot to put the third generation. You only put two generations, and each one says, "Oh, it's my receipt. I paid it." What do you do? It says, and the thing, they both owe you money. The Malva found in his exactly. No, they found it was found that Yosef and Shimon paid up. The din is they say that you cannot collect my other one because each one will say it was my receipt. But the point, what do we see from here? The only problem is for the two people the same name. If it would be no two people the same name, only one person the same name, we would say that it was paid up. Akasha Rabbi said if he found the receipt in the Rishus of the Malva, we'll say the Malva is Masachik for him. It wasn't paid up. Clearly, it was paid up. The only problem here is with two people with the same name. So Safra said, "Shenimtza ben shtores kuruin." Safra said, "Where did you find the receipt in the place that tells us that it probably was paid up amongst all the documents that are ripped up?" Tashma coming here, Shavua. If the person died and the children now have the shtar and they want to collect, so they have to swear. Shavua, we swear. So like Pakadno Abba, that they should swear. That our father never told us before he died that he got paid back. Or our father never said before then that he got paid back. And they have to say, we never found a receipt. If they would have found a receipt in the Malva's Rishus, we would say that it was paid up. Nu Akasha. Rabbi Rabba says that if he found it in the Malva, it means nothing. This is what he answered his answer. You found it in a place where it seems, it indicates to us that amongst all the ripped up stars, which are all loans that were taken care of. And there you found the receipt. It says if you have the simpan, that which breaks no receipt. Sheyesh olavedim, but which is on it is kaim b'chayfa. You just verified with the agent. Seems to me clearly that if you verify that the receipt is real, we say it was paid up. Kasha b'rabba. Ema yiskayim meichaysmo. That you asked the agent, you signed the receipt. It wasn't stamak savya that the Malva that I was paid back. You signed the receipt. So tell us, did you see the paper? Did you see him pay back or not? Did you just write a stamp in the belt for the Malva to have it ready, or did you see a payment? The shining the sadi. We asked the witnesses. He put away, like put away. We asked him, was it paid up or not? So if he said it was paid up, paid up. If he said it wasn't paid up, there will be the Malva that it was only written to be ready. Toshma coming here, simpan is Edim kosher. It says in another place, simpan that has on it Edim is kosher. So again, it seems clear from here that if you find Edim on it, it's a good receipt. We'll say the lender paid it back. Doesn't matter who. where you found the receipt, even in the Rishus of the Malva. Sasha get it, Rama. So we answer again. My Edim, Edim means Ede Kiyum. That if you find a stamp of the Bezin, because Bezin would not have stamped it unless it was paid back. If you found the stamp receipt, it wasn't paid back. If you found it in the stamp of the Bezin, it was paid back. How come that makes sense? Tony safe was but no Edim possible. What means no Edim? Edim like Edim, call Edim at all. The apostle, you have to tell me that is possible that you cannot use say it was a paid receipt. If Sefer wrote something and no Eidim on it, then it's nothing. Elalav, Eidim Kiyim means Eidim Kiyim. Gufa, similar Eidim is kind of a simple that has Eidim, ask the Eidim. Enel Eidim, no Eidim. But what happened here? It's neither in the Malvas Rishus nor in the Leva. The receipt was some third party that was entrusted with it. Or on the bottom of that loan contract, on the bottom it says receipt. Then kosher. Then we'll say that it means it was paid back. Yoitziv Tachid Sholish. Why? If it goes out of third party, everybody trusted him, and therefore the receipt is in the third party's hand. That means it was paid back. If you wrote this thing and you gave it to a third party, definitely he was paid back. It's one thing if you kept it to yourself, that you get it ready, but you gave it to a third party. Once it's out there, it means it's paid back. If you wrote at the bottom of the document, why is it considered definitely a bad receipt? Yeah. There's no way that a lender is going to ruin his own evidence that he has that the borrower owes him by putting a receipt right on it. So therefore, he has no case. Tomorrow, Mitzvah, we go back to Yeshiva Shinyonim, bring you back to the Gears of the Yankasa. Beautiful. Have a good day, everybody.